Ladies and gentlemen, let us pause for a moment and turn our attention to a subject that holds immense power: the choices of our youth. Teenagers, vibrant with potential and teeming with dreams, are at a crossroads. Their decisions today will carve the path of their tomorrow. Yet, amidst the energy and curiosity of these formative years, certain habits can quietly creep in, derailing their journey before it truly begins. Imagine a tree young and growing, its roots seeking nourishment. If the soil is tainted, the tree struggles to flourish. Similarly, there are habits that can act as toxins in a young person's life: small, seemingly harmless behaviors that, if left unchecked, grow into destructive patterns. Habits that erode confidence, undermine relationships, and obscure the brilliance of what could have been. It might be neglecting responsibilities in favor of fleeting distractions, the allure of procrastination whispering promises of later, or the habit of comparison, measuring oneself against the curated lives of others, forgetting the beauty of individuality. Then there's the heavy weight of negative self-talk, an inner critic so loud it drowns out the voices of encouragement and support. Some might fall into the trap of surrounding themselves with the wrong influences, drawn into choices that do not reflect who they truly are. Others may find themselves ruled by impulsive decisions, acting without thought, and regretting in hindsight. And of course, there's the tendency to shy away from accountability, pointing fingers rather than owning up to mistakes, a path that leads nowhere but stagnation. Lastly, the habit of neglecting self-care, both physical and mental, can slowly chip away at the foundation of a healthy life. Sleep, nutrition, mindfulness, all sacrificed on the altar of busyness or indifference, leaving a body tired and a mind restless. But here's the truth: habits are not chains. They are threads, and threads can be rewoven. Change is not a thunderous storm, it is a quiet choice made again and again. To break free from these patterns is to step into the power of possibility, to choose growth over stagnation and light over shadows. To the teenagers of the world, know this: you are the architects of your future. Lay each brick with care, for what you build will stand as a testament to your strength and vision. Choose wisely, and let your story be one of triumph, not of regret. Picture this: a young person standing at the edge of a vast field, each path before them leading to an unknown horizon. Some trails look smooth and inviting, while others are rugged, overgrown, and daunting. This is the essence of youth: boundless possibilities, yet no map to guarantee the right direction. The teenage years are not just another chapter in the book of life, they are the ink itself, writing the narrative that will shape every page to come. It's a time when curiosity burns brightly, but so too do uncertainty and doubt. Choices made during these years are not merely decisions, they are seeds planted deep in the soil of time. Some will grow into mighty oaks, offering shelter and stability, while others may sprout as weeds, threatening to choke the life out of what could have been. Every moment, every action, is a brushstroke on the canvas of one's future. Yet, amidst all this potential, there lies a paradox. The freedom to choose is a powerful gift, but it carries with it a heavy responsibility. For without intention, those choices can lead to paths that meander, or worse, to dead ends. You see, life doesn't wait for clarity or wisdom to come knocking. It moves forward, steady and unyielding. And as it does, the habits and decisions formed during these tender years begin to solidify. The beauty of it all, though, is that even the most uncertain of paths can be redirected. Even the darkest of trails can lead to light, if only one has the courage to stop, reflect, and choose again. Teenagers are architects, their lives the blueprints. Every brick they lay, every choice they make, becomes part of a structure that will stand long into their future. The question is, will they build a fortress of strength or a house of cards? The answer lies not in the hands of fate, but in their own. Imagine, if you will, standing before a vast mirror, not the kind that simply reflects your face, but one that shows your soul. Now, instead of your own image, the glass fills with fragments of others' lives. Smiling faces, perfect moments, achievements proudly displayed. And as you stare, a quiet thought sneaks in, whispering, "Why don't I measure up?" This is the silent battle of comparison, and it can steal from even the brightest of hearts. In a world where every highlight reel is on display, It's easy to forget that what we see is only the surface. The carefully curated, polished moments that others present are not their whole story. Beneath every smile, there are struggles. Behind every success, there are sacrifices and failures. Yet, when we compare, we don't see the hidden truths. We only see what makes us feel small. Comparison is a thief. It robs you of your joy, your confidence, and perhaps most tragically, your sense of self. It convinces you to turn away from your own unique gifts, to dismiss your journey as unworthy because it doesn't look like someone else's. But here's the truth: it was never supposed to. No two paths are the same, and no two lives can be measured by the same standard. When you focus on someone else's reflection, you lose sight of your own. You miss the beauty, the potential, and the individuality that make you who you are. The only person you should ever compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Growth isn't found in looking at others, it's found in becoming better than the version of yourself that came before. So take a moment. Step away from that mirror filled with other people's lives. Look inward. Celebrate your wins, however small they may seem. Learn from your struggles. And above all, remember that your worth isn't defined by anyone else. It's found in the way you rise again and again to become the person you were meant to be. Close your eyes and listen, not to the world around you, but to the voice within. It speaks softly, yet its words can echo louder than any sound. For some, it's a voice of encouragement, a gentle reminder of strength and potential. But for others, it becomes a relentless critic, tearing down instead of building up. This is the weight of negative self-talk, and it can be one of the most destructive forces in a young person's life. Imagine carrying a backpack. At first, it's light and easy to bear. But with each whisper of self-doubt, "I'm not good enough, I always mess up, I'll never be like them," a stone is added. Over time, the weight becomes unbearable. Yet you've grown so accustomed to it that you forget it's even there. You trudge on slower, heavier, wondering why the journey feels so hard. Negative self-talk doesn't just weigh you down, it builds walls. It blocks opportunities before they even arise, convincing you not to try, not to hope, not to believe. It whispers that failure is inevitable, and that even success isn't worth celebrating. But here's the thing about that voice: it's not telling the truth. It's not a reflection of who you are, it's a distortion. A trick played by fear and insecurity. What if, instead of carrying those stones, you started letting them go? What if you replaced those harsh whispers with words of kindness and understanding? "I made a mistake" becomes "I'm learning." "I'm not enough" transforms into "I'm growing." Each shift, each small change, lightens the load and tears down the walls. The power of the mind is extraordinary. It can be your greatest ally or your fiercest adversary, depending on how you choose to speak to yourself. Remember, the voice within doesn't have to be a critic. It can be a coach, a friend, a source of strength. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love, and watch as the world starts to change, not because it's different, but because you are. Life has a rhythm, a quiet melody that guides us through its twists and turns. But there's another sound that often calls out, louder and more urgent: the voices of those around us. Friends, peers, acquaintances, they can either harmonize with our tune or drown it out completely. For teenagers still discovering their own song, the company they keep can be one of the most defining aspects of their journey. Picture a boat setting sail on an open sea. The waters are unpredictable, the winds shifting. Now imagine that this boat isn't manned by just one captain, but by a crew chosen carefully, or perhaps without much thought at all. If the crew works in harmony, the boat moves forward with purpose. But if the crew pulls in different directions, argues, or neglects the oars, the boat drifts aimlessly, or worse, capsizes. The people you surround yourself with act as that crew. Their words, actions, and attitudes influence your direction, often more than you realize. When you're with those who encourage recklessness or dismiss your values, their influence can steer you toward choices that don't reflect who you truly are. They can dull your shine, cloud your judgment, and make you forget the path you were meant to walk. But just as easily, the right people can lift you higher than you thought possible. They are the ones who remind you of your potential, who challenge you to grow, who hold you accountable in the best way. They don't drag you down, they push you forward. Their presence is like a lighthouse guiding you when the waters get rough. The question then, is this who is in your crew? Are they rowing with you or against you? Are they helping you reach your destination or keeping you anchored in place? Choosing your circle isn't about judgment, it's about alignment. It's about finding those who reflect your values, your dreams, and your worth. Because in the end, the journey of life is yours to navigate. And while you'll always hold the wheel, the crew you choose will shape how far and how smoothly you sail. Choose wisely and let your ship move boldly toward horizons unimagined. Life often feels like a race, doesn't it? A rush to get somewhere, achieve something, prove yourself. In that race, decisions can come at you fast, demanding answers before you've even had time to think. For teenagers especially, with emotions running high and the world moving even faster, the temptation to act on impulse can be overwhelming. Impulsiveness is a storm. It starts with a single spark, a feeling, a reaction, a desire, and before you know it, the winds are howling, pushing you forward before you've had a chance to grab hold of the reins. In the moment, it might feel liberating, like you're breaking free of hesitation and fear. But more often than not, impulsive decisions leave behind a trail of regret, consequences you never intended and cannot take back. Think of a stone tossed into a still lake. The action is quick, almost thoughtless, but the ripples go on, spreading further than you ever imagined. That's the power of a single decision. What seems minor or harmless in the moment can have effects that shape your relationships, your opportunities, your very sense of self. But impulsiveness isn't an enemy to be feared. It's a force to be understood. At its core, it's not about recklessness, it's about energy. It's about passion, curiosity, and a hunger for experience. These are not bad things. In fact, they're what make life vibrant and full of possibilities. The key is learning to channel that energy, to pause and consider before leaping. A moment of stillness can be the difference between a decision you'll celebrate and one you'll wish you could undo. That pause gives you the power to weigh the consequences, to ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Is this choice leading me toward the life I want? It takes strength to pause. It takes wisdom to hold back when every instinct is telling you to act. But in that stillness, you find clarity. You find control. And with that control, you can harness the storm of impulsiveness, using its energy to propel you forward, not into chaos, but into purpose. Picture this: you're standing at a crossroads and a mistake you've made lies behind you. It's a simple thing, really a moment of weakness. A misstep. A decision you wish you could take back. But instead of turning to face it, to own it, you point to someone else, to the circumstances, to anything but yourself. It feels easier that way, doesn't it? Easier to shift the weight of responsibility elsewhere, to avoid the discomfort of saying, that one's on me. But here's the truth about accountability: it isn't a burden. It's a bridge. It's what takes you from where you are to where you want to be. Without it, you're stuck, circling the same mistakes, unable to move forward, because you refuse to face what's holding you back. Avoiding accountability doesn't erase the mistake. It simply buries it deeper, letting it fester. Over time, those buried moments build up, creating walls that block your growth, your confidence, and your potential. It's like carrying a hidden weight, one that grows heavier with every denial. But when you take responsibility, when you step up and say, yes, I did this and I'll make it right, something remarkable happens. The weight lifts. The walls crack. You reclaim your power. Owning your mistakes doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. It shows that you're brave enough to face your flaws and wise enough to learn from them. You see, accountability isn't about blame, it's about growth. It's not about being perfect, but about being honest with yourself and with others. When you hold yourself accountable, you gain respect. People begin to see you as someone who can be trusted, someone who doesn't run from the hard truths but faces them head on. And here's the beauty of it: accountability isn't a one-time act. It's a habit, a choice you make again and again. Each time you take responsibility, you take a step closer to the person you're meant to be. So the next time you stand at that crossroads, don't look for an escape. Look for the bridge. Walk across it with your head held high, knowing that accountability is not your shame, it's your strength. Life often presents us with moments where the world feels urgent, pressing, and demanding action. In those moments, the temptation to act without thought can be overpowering. Impulsiveness whispers in your ear, urging you to move, to decide, to leap without looking. It feels like freedom, like breaking free of hesitation and doubt. But what seems liberating in one moment can become the source of regret in the next. Imagine you're holding a match in a dark room. With one quick strike, you create light, warmth, even possibility. But if you act carelessly, that same match can spark a fire that consumes everything around it. This is the dual nature of impulsive decisions. They carry the potential for brilliance, but also the risk of chaos. When you act without thinking, you hand your power over to the moment. You let fleeting emotions, anger, excitement, fear take the wheel, steering you toward outcomes you might never have chosen if you just paused to consider. A word spoken in frustration can fracture a friendship. A risk taken without thought can lead to consequences far greater than you imagined. But here's the thing about impulsiveness: it isn't inherently bad. It's energy, raw and untamed. It's the spark of curiosity, the pull of adventure. What matters is how you wield it. With mindfulness, that energy can become your greatest ally. Without it, it can become your greatest obstacle. The key is the pause. That small, deliberate moment between impulse and action. It's in that pause that wisdom resides. It's in that pause that you reclaim your power, asking yourself the questions that truly matter. Will this choice bring me closer to who I want to be? Will it build or break what I value most? Pausing doesn't mean hesitating forever. It doesn't mean letting fear paralyze you. It means giving yourself the gift of clarity, the chance to act with intention rather than reaction. Because when you act with thought, with purpose, you don't just move, you move forward. And in the end, life isn't about how quickly you act, but about the direction you choose. Let every step you take be one of intention, every decision one that reflects your strength, your values, and your vision for the future. Mistakes are a part of life, woven into the fabric of growth and learning. They are inevitable, universal, and deeply human. But when the moment comes to face those mistakes, there's a choice to be made to own them or to shift the blame. Far too often, the temptation is to look outward, to point fingers at circumstances, at others, at anything but yourself. This avoidance might feel like a shield, protecting you from the sting of guilt or embarrassment. Yet, in reality, it's a trap, a cage that keeps you from growing. When you refuse to take responsibility, you deny yourself the opportunity to learn from what went wrong. You remain stuck, circling the same patterns, unable to move forward because you won't confront the truth. But accountability, when embraced, is not a burden, it is liberation. To stand up and say, "I made a mistake," is an act of courage, a declaration of strength. It's not about admitting weakness, but about recognizing your humanity and committing to do better. Responsibility doesn't make you smaller, it makes you bigger. It builds trust with others and with yourself. Think of a garden. Mistakes are like weeds. If ignored, they spread, choking out the growth of everything good. But when you acknowledge them, when you pull them up by their roots, you make space for something new, something better. Accountability is the gardener's tool, the act of clearing the way for progress. And accountability doesn't just affect you. It affects those around you. People respect someone who can own their actions, who doesn't shy away from the hard truths. It shows integrity, a willingness to face challenges head on, and a commitment to growth. It's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. The beauty of taking responsibility is that it shifts the narrative. Instead of being defined by your mistakes, you become defined by your response to them. You reclaim your story, showing the world and yourself that you are not bound by what went wrong, but guided by what you've learned. So when the moment comes, don't hide, don't deflect. Stand tall. Face your mistakes with courage and resolve. Because accountability is not the end of the road, it's the first step toward a better one. In the fast-paced world that surrounds us, it's easy to forget about the quiet importance of taking care of oneself. We live in a culture that prizes productivity, achievement, and always doing. We're told to keep moving, to push harder, to go faster. But what happens when we forget to care for the vessel that carries us through it all, our body and our mind? What happens when we neglect the very foundation that supports everything we strive for? It's like a car that's been running non-stop without ever being serviced. Eventually, the engine will sputter, the tires will wear thin, and the car will break down. So too when we neglect sleep. When we eat poorly, when we let our minds grow restless without pause or reflection, we begin to run on empty. And running on empty takes a toll. We often think of self-care as a luxury, something we can attend to when everything else is taken care of. But in truth, it's a necessity. Your body needs rest. Your mind needs space. Without these, you cannot give your best. You cannot achieve the greatness you're capable of if you're running on fumes. You can't serve others, contribute to the world, or build the future you dream of if you've left yourself behind. And self-care isn't just about rest or nutrition. It's about mental and emotional well-being too. It's about finding time to step away from the noise, to reflect, to reset. It's about nurturing the inner self, allowing space for growth and healing. The world will always demand more from you, but it's up to you to decide how much you give and how much you keep for yourself. What happens when we neglect our self-care is not just physical exhaustion or mental burnout. It's the loss of clarity, of focus, of joy. When you aren't tending to your needs, when you aren't giving yourself the space to breathe, everything becomes harder. The simplest tasks feel like mountains. The brightest moments are clouded. You lose sight of what truly matters. But here's the gift in it all: self-care isn't something that requires grand gestures. It's found in the small, quiet moments: getting enough sleep, taking a walk in the fresh air, saying no when you need to, giving yourself grace when you fall short. It's the conscious decision to put yourself first for just a moment, to honor your own needs without guilt or shame. When you begin to make self-care a priority, you'll find that everything else falls into place. You'll feel more focused, more grounded, more present. You'll have the energy to chase your dreams, the clarity to make wise decisions, and the strength to weather the storms that will inevitably come. You cannot pour from an empty cup. But when your cup is full, you can offer your best to the world. So remember this: caring for yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. The life you want to live, the person you want to become, begins with how you treat yourself. Be kind, be patient, and above all, take care of the one person who is with you through it all. You. Change is a constant companion in life. Though it often arrives uninvited, sweeping in like a storm, unsettling everything it touches. And yet, for all its unpredictability, change is not an enemy, it's an invitation. An invitation to grow, to evolve, and to move beyond the limits you once thought defined you. But to embrace it, you must first be willing to see it for what it truly is: not a threat, but an opportunity. The first step in this journey is understanding that change is inevitable. It doesn't wait for permission or a perfect moment. It arrives when it's ready, and it's often the smallest of changes that lead to the most profound shifts in your life. You don't need to wait for a grand event or a dramatic turning point. Every choice you make, every moment of reflection, is a chance to begin anew, to take a step in the direction of the person you want to become. It's easy to resist change, to cling to the familiar, even when that familiarity no longer serves you. The comfort of routine can feel safe, like a warm blanket on a cold night. But in that comfort, you stop growing. You stop learning. You stop reaching for the things that could truly expand your horizons. The longer you hold on to what no longer works, the harder it becomes to reach for what is possible. You see, change is not something that happens to you, it's something you have the power to create. It begins with a shift in mindset, a decision to stop seeing the unknown as something to fear and start seeing it as something to explore. The only way to grow is to step into the unfamiliar, to embrace the discomfort of new experiences. It's in those moments of uncertainty that you discover strengths you never knew you had, abilities you never imagined you could tap into. And while change can be daunting, it's also essential. Without it, you stagnate. You settle. You become a version of yourself that no longer aligns with the world around you. But with change, there is always potential. Every day is a blank page, a chance to write a new chapter, to redefine what's possible. The key is not to be afraid of the blank pages, but to fill them with intention, with purpose. Change also brings with it the realization that perfection is an illusion. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know the exact path or the end result. The beauty of life lies in the journey, the willingness to take that first step, even when the road ahead is unclear. Every mistake, every detour, every unexpected turn is part of your story, part of your growth. It's in those moments that you truly learn who you are. Growth isn't linear, and neither is change. There will be days when you feel like you've taken a giant leap forward, and other days when it feels like you've fallen back. But that's okay. Progress is not always about moving forward in a straight line. Sometimes it's about learning how to rise after a setback, how to begin again after stumbling, and how to keep moving, even when the path isn't easy. And here's the thing, change is not just about external circumstances. It's about the transformation that happens inside you. It's about letting go of old beliefs, outdated patterns, and limiting thoughts that hold you back. It's about clearing out the mental clutter so that you can make room for new ideas, new opportunities, and new ways of thinking. It's the quiet revolution that happens within, shaping the person you are becoming. So as change comes, don't fight it. Don't see it as a burden, but as the breath of life, the force that propels you forward into greater things. Take it one step at a time. Trust that every challenge, every shift, is part of your unfolding journey. Embrace it, not as something to fear, but as the catalyst for the person you are meant to be. Change is not the end of the road. It's just the beginning of a new one. And with each new beginning, you are given the chance to be more, to do more, and to live more fully than you ever imagined.